Overlord Volume 6 Chapter 8 Chapter 8 Six Arms Part 1 Lower Fire Month, 9th month, 4th day 2151. In the kingdom, people were used to sleeping at dusk. This was because lighting lamps cost money. Villages with more poor families typically lived a regimented lifestyle of working in the day and resting at night. However, life in the urban areas was different from how it was in the agricultural regions. This difference was particularly apparent in the colorful, busy city streets. They sprang to life when the shops and residences lit up, like nocturnal beasts. However, this was not so in the place where Climb was headed. That place was not a Xing nightlife district, but more like a lightless street, shrouded in darkness. Climb was silent and he did not carry a lantern as he walked through the quiet alleys. The fact that he could see while moving in the darkness was thanks to a magical effect in his helmet which made it function like a set of night vision goggles. While he could only see up to 15 meters in front of him, what he could see was as bright as day. In addition, the plates of his full-plate armor made of mithril and other materials did not make noise when they bumped into each other, unlike steel plate armor. In addition, the enchantment on the armor meant that there were no sounds of metallic rustling when in motion. Unless they had exceptional hearing or were a skilled thief, not even someone standing beside Climb would be able to pick up on the sounds of him walking. That was why he had joined the Pioneer Reconnaissance Party. After walking down the alley, his target came into view. It was surrounded by imposing walls, which sealed it off from the surrounding area. It felt like a prison, or a fortress. His mind raced with dark thoughts like, what sort of illegal activities are going on inside? Even the magical lamps installed on either side of the door could not dispel that mental image. According to their intelligence, their target ought to be behind these walls, but he could not see it from here. That's it. I'm sure of it, Climb muttered as he hunkered down. A voice answered from the empty air beside him. Agreed, leader. Judging by the feel of this place, that should be it. I'll go take a look around, then. The person who replied was a former Orichalcum-ranked adventurer who possessed thief-type skills. After he was done, Brain, who was traveling with them, added, "Be careful. You might be invisible, but some warriors can see through it." Of course. Our enemy is the Eight Fingers, after all. I'll be operating under the assumption that they have thieves or magic casters on my level. So I hope the two of you will pray for my success. With that, the presence beside Climb began fading away. While he could not hear anything even while craning his neck to listen, perhaps a thief on par with him might be able to hear soft footsteps drawing away, heading towards the residence. This left Climb and Brain. They had left the others behind because they were not skilled at stealthy movement. The noise from full-plate armor would practically broadcast their location to the enemy. That said, nobody was foolhardy enough to take off their armor and approach the enemy when there was an upcoming battle. That was why the two of them were here. Of course they were both warriors, and they could not move like thieves did. Even so, Climb and Brain could move in the darkness, Climb relying on his enchanted armor, while Brain used martial arts, and together they had come this close to the enemy camp. However, what came next could only be left to a professional. The two of them had risked so much to come here so that they could decide whether to attack or flee if the infiltration failed and the enemy bolstered their defenses. Therefore, their mission was already accomplished just by staying here and watching the enemy. Even so, they could not help but feel uneasy as time passed. Since they were waiting and had not gone in themselves, their thoughts naturally turned towards the worst. It'll be okay, right? As the word slipped from Climb's mouth, Brain calmly answered, I don't know, but all we can do is trust him. We have to trust in the skills of a former Orichalcum-ranked adventurer. You're right. After all, he's a veteran adventurer. They did not know how long they had waited, but Brain's hand suddenly went to the katana at his waist. Just as Climb was about to reach for his sword in response, a somewhat panicked male voice came from beside them. Wait. It's me. I'm back. It was the voice of the thief who had gone to scout AEAD. Ah, as I thought. You came so close but didn't do anything, so I thought. You must have been trying to see if I could really detect you with martial arts, right? Yes, sorry about that. You're right. I'm really sorry for daring to test the skills of the great brain Unglaeus. Don't worry about it. I might have done the same thing in your position. That aside, can you tell us what you've learned? The air rippled beside Climb, and he sensed that someone had sat down. He could not see anyone when he looked beside him, yet he had the strange feeling that someone was there. First, I think that place is used for training of some sort. There's a large yard behind the wall, making it look like a practice yard. I only had a cursory look through the interior, but there seemed to be several segregated rooms inside. I guess it's a base for Eight Fingers Security Division. Also, there's one place which was heavily guarded, so I had trouble approaching. And then something terrible happened, leader. The man's tone changed. It was now filled with the utmost tension. I discovered two important things when I went inside. One is that there's a prison here, with a woman inside. The other is that there are several people here whose descriptions match those of Six Arms. The woman aside, they had already expected Six Arms to be here. So what was the problem? Climb's doubts were immediately answered by a question from Brain. You said, several people? Doesn't sound like one person. 5 of them. Now that Illusion Devil's been captured, that ought to be all of them. In other words, this was an impossible hurdle for them. They had drawn the short straw. However, well, it's terrible, but it's also pretty fortunate. Since they're all here, that means the others can easily take down the other locations. That was the silverling on a very dark cloud. Then, what should we do? What can we do? We can't attack this place. Let's fall back. Are you alright with that, Climb-kun? I don't like it, but we don't have a choice. If Six Arms are gathered here, then it must be permanent base or it holds something they value heavily. It would be bad if we withdrew before verifying that. However, I don't think we should do anything our fighting power can't cover. Indeed. Then, should I go in again and take a look, maybe bring some documents back? No, it's too risky. Forget it. Since they haven't found us yet, I think it would be wiser to retreat right away. What do you think? That's right, I approve. But then what should we do next? Attack another point? I think that would be the most effective course of action. Could you report to the people behind us? We'll wait here to make sure nobody comes out to pursue you. I doubt there'll be anyone like that, but you can't be too careful. In that case, I'll leave this to the two of you. The thief had not yet dispelled his invisibility as he deliberately moved quickly so Climb and Brain could hear. He then fell back to where the rest of the team members were waiting. Doesn't seem like there's any movement so far, Climb-kun. Yes. Then we should probably retreat and go to another location with the others. Sounds good, Climb-kun, look. Climb's eyes followed Brain's finger, and they both saw a man they had met yesterday heading for the building they were watching. Isn't that Seba-sama? Why is he here? It doesn't seem like a coincidence, but what happened? Is he part of them? I'm sure he isn't. Brain-sama, do you think so too, right? He can't be. Unless he's really good at acting. Still, I don't think Seba-sama is that kind of man. In any case, let's call out. Just as the words left his mouth, Seba's turned and his eyes fixed on the two of them. Climb and Brain were some distance away from the building in order to observe it, and they were hidden in the darkness. Under normal circumstances, it would have been quite hard to find them. While he might have looked in their direction by chance, Climb was completely certain that it was not the case this time around. Sebas jogged over. His speed was abnormal. He was so fast that he seemed to be teleporting every time they blinked as he closed the distance to them. He was running normally, but his celerity was such that their brains refused to acknowledge it. Then, he flew over their heads. More accurately, he leapt over the heads of the two people hunkered down in the alley. What a coincidence. Fancy meeting you two here. Is something the matter? No, we actually wanted to ask that ourselves. We were planning to attack that building which was owned by Eight Fingers, so we were lying in wait here. Just the two of you? No, there's several others behind us. I see, Sebas said quietly. Climb then asked him, Sebas-sama, why did you come here? Do you have business in that building? Yes. That is precisely so. The woman I mentioned yesterday, the one whom I rescued, was kidnapped. The enemy called me over here, and so I came. Is that so? Our colleague who scouted AEAD did say there was a woman inside. And where is that comrade of yours? Oh, I think he'll be back soon. There he is. The no longer invisible adventurer returned from where Brain was looking. He looked at Sebas in surprise. Clearly, the sudden appearance of this dashing old gentleman was quite out of place here. This is Sebas-sama, the person who lent us his aid when we caught the illusion devil. The person in the cell you mentioned earlier seems to be a friend of Sebas-sama's, which is why we met here. This man is completely trustworthy, so please do not worry. I see, the thief answered. He then began talking about what he had learned, starting with news on that woman. After hearing everything, Sebas spoke in a grateful voice. I see. I understand. Thank you. Rescuing her now will be much easier. No, please don't worry about it, sir. By the way, everyone's ready to pull out. The thief felt guilty as he realized that he and the others had decided to retreat while that female friend of Sebas was still locked up within that building. He sneaked a look at Sebas' face. Sebas-sama. 5 of the strongest fighters in Eight Fingers, called Six Arms, are in that building. Can you defeat them? The thief knotted his brows as he heard Climb's question. Climb understood what he was thinking. The Six Arms were each the equivalent of an adamantite-ranked adventurer. Surely he must have thought that taking 5 of them on at once was impossible. However, Sebas simply ignored those thoughts and nodded gently. 5 people of Succulent's caliber shouldn't be a problem. The thief kept himself from rolling his eyes, then he pulled Climb and Brain away. He looked at Sebas with a pained expression on his face, and then asked them. Leader, is he a madman? Anyone would think such a thing upon hearing Sebas speak like that. Anyone who knew the strength of an adamantite-ranked adventurer would surely think so too. However, Climb had glimpsed a fraction of Sebas' power, and he knew that Sebas was definitely not bragging. No, that man really is that amazing. The thief stared long and hard at Climb. The look in his eye was as though he was gazing upon a lunatic. Brain-sama thinks so too. Even Brain Unglaeus thinks that as well? Brain smiled bitterly to the thief and nodded. Yes, Sebas-sama is strong enough that Gazef and I couldn't beat him even if we went at him together. That's really... No, if what you said is true, then it would be amazing. It was hard to believe, but he had to accept it given that the two of them had said that much. The thief looked at Sebas with a complex expression on his face. If we can count on your aid, Sebas-sama, we might be able to. Sorry, could you tell Sebas-sama about the Six Arms? The thief agreed, and Sebas quietly waited for him to finish speaking. However, he lost his gentlemanly reserve upon hearing the title of one of Six Arms' members. Undying King Davernic, is it? A mere fool does not deserve that title. Sebas did not react beyond those muttered words, and the thief finished sharing his information. Just then, Climb asked. Then, Sebas-sama, if you don't mind, could we count on your assistance? Of course. I came to save Su'er, after all. Leave Six Arms to me, then. Then I hope you will come at them from the front and draw their attention, Sebas-sama. We will use that opportunity to infiltrate the place. While we cannot possibly replace you, please allow us to help rescue Su'er-san on your behalf. Just as well. Nothing would be better than for you gentlemen to help rescue her while the enemy is distracted, to prevent her from becoming a hostage or from being spirited away via a different route. I understand. We will definitely rescue Su'er-san safely. Then, who will be going in? I know the original plan was to have everyone infiltrate, and it was a good idea. If we're sneaking in quietly, then we need to make as little noise as possible. After that, once we rescue Suer-san, we'll need to head out as directly as possible, so we'll need to be able to fight. That being the case, the thief looked at Clyman Brain after the two of them addressed their questions to him. Well, if we had unlimited use of invisibility spells there might be another way, but I think the three of us are the most suitable for the task. You mean I can go too? Well, my fellow warriors' armor is too noisy, so they're not suitable for infiltration. I understand. Then we'll be sneaking in. If our magic caster could use silence spells or the like, it'd be a different matter. Well, if it's just the three of us, then there's still a way. I'll ask everyone to cast invisibility spells on us. Invisibility, huh? Clyme said bitterly. My helmet can see through invisibility once a day, so I've no problems if everyone is invisible, but how about the rest of you? It would be bad if we got lost because we couldn't see the others. I'm fine. Someone's already cast a see invisibility spell on one of my magic items. It can only be used once, but I can use it on myself. I don't have an ability like that, but I don't think I'll miss the sound of your footsteps, leader. Is that so? Then communications between the infiltration party ought to be fine. In that case, we'll be going in first. Please wait a while before making your move, Sebas-sama. I will be counting on you. Sebas bowed his hoary head to them, which startled Clyman Brain. After all, they had done nothing to make this amazing man bow to them. This was because they were sort of using the mighty Sebas, much like they had during the brothel raid. No, please don't worry about it. The truth is, we came to attack this location. In fact, we're very grateful that you're willing to deal with 6 arms for us, Sebas-sama. Then we are helping each other out, are we not? There was no hint of any resentment or malice towards Clyme and the others on Sebas' smiling face. Clyme stood up, his heart at ease. Then we will be falling back first, to have the others cast spells on us.